Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second of our live streams for the HERd SHEries. This week, we're watching the third event of our series, a scratch race around Casse Pattes in France. First over the line will be the winner. Casse Pattes comes in at 23.8 kilometres with 155 metres of climbing. We will hit the Aqueduct KOM after a very flat start at around 13 kilometres in, with the Petit KOM coming in at 17 kilometres before a mad downhill dash to the finish. Today I'm joined by Craig and Ben. Sadly, Nate couldn't make it today because he's not feeling very well. We hope you feel better soon. Craig, I believe that you're keeping an eye on the D race, which has just started.
Sorry, yes I am. So I'm moving around a few people here, but currently I guess I'm looking at Margaret Brown, I think it is, who has interestingly apparently on a TT bike, although that might be just my view.
And also joined by Ben Poynton today. Ben, I believe you're following someone in the seas.
Good evening. Yes, I am. So I'm with Victoria Howarth, one of our incumbents in the herd of kangaroos, and the seas are now away.
The usual chaotic start.
Yes, absolutely. So it's a big field tonight. It looks like nearly 50 women have turned up for this. So there's all sorts of power being thrown at the front. Nice long strun out front group. I can see a number of people I recognise from the Zone 1 TTT teams, and they're all doing really well, getting themselves up nice and forward in this group. So great to see. Great start.
Super, and I'll be watching Marilyn de Vlaer in category B, a regular of the ZRL teams and the TTT teams on a Thursday as well. So they'll be setting off any moment now, actually, at 4 minutes past. So not too far before that kicks off. So yeah, Victoria's doing nicely in the seats.
Yes, she is. She's got herself comfortably tucked into the front group. So coming into the first sprint point now, obviously not scored, it is a scratch race. But nice, good group forming here. 3, 4 HERd jerseys representing in there, all nicely tucked in and doing the bowsering really nicely. Interesting course tonight, James. Good selection as far as I'm concerned. It's a great scratch course.
Yeah, I think there's a bit for everyone and a good finish to a race. So we've got, as I mentioned earlier, about 13 kilometres of flat before we hit the very, very short Aqueduct KOM, which could well have quite a big impact on the race at that stage, because quite often we'll see people treat it more as a sprint than a climb. Before we head over that, back downhill for a little bit, and then we'll hit the Petit KOM, and I think around 17 kilometres, and that'll probably be a 6 to 7 minute climb for our Bs, probably 7 to 8 for Cs, and 8 to 10 for our Ds, and that will almost definitely set up a crazy downhill finish. But the Bs have just set off. Marilyn comfortably towards the front of the group. And we'll definitely expect the vast majority of the fields to be together up towards the aqueduct. So I think we're set for 13 kilometres of fairly sort of static racing, everyone blobbing up and bowsering as best they possibly can. But we'll keep in touch with this and see how it's going. Craig, are you able to let us know what's going on in the D race?
Absolutely. So to look right now, I've got we've got 3 or 4 bird riders in what appears to be the front group. So there's Beckton, and I've lost 3 or 4 of the others.
great to see. And how's Victoria doing in the seas?
Doing really well. So she's happily tucked in this front group with our followed rider from last week, actually, Loranique, also tucked away in there. And they're making good time. So they're just hitting one of my favourite things on this course, which is one of the cobbled bridges. A very, very tricky thing to hit if you're not prepared, because they act as if they're a 1 or a 2% rise with the increased rolling resistance. Some sneaky little points to attack and to make other people hurt. I love them.
Yeah, so on that note, where do you think the other attack points are apart from the two KOMs?
So on this course, a personal favourite of mine is there's a really nasty roller, which is in between, just after the second bridge. As you cross the river, you switch over and back from the river. About 4%, about 400 meters. You can really do some damage to a group there. The other one would be the Pave Sprint, 700 meters of cobblestones. Again, another spot you can really, really break up a group. Great spots to attack if you're looking to try to drop some of the lighter riders or make them work harder.
Yeah, I think one of the parts where I tend to struggle is actually the rollers just before the aqueduct. The aqueduct is generally okay because you know you're going to have to hammer it just to try and stay with people, but I always struggle on the rollers just before, and as ever with Zwift, rollers can depend an awful lot on your trainer delay. So some trainers you might see a delay of up to about 5 seconds after putting down the power before it actually reflects in your game speed. So I think that's an area where the field will certainly start to get strung out before the sprint up the little climb. Just coming back to Maryline, she is a back wheel in a group of 19. So out of the 22 in the B race, 19 are all in the front group. So Maryline's in the perfect position to conserve power as much as possible. Having said that, she is putting out 300 watts at the moment, so maybe not a massive amount of conserving. I think she's just probably trying to get herself a little bit further up the group just so she can relax a little bit. Doesn't look like an attack, although she is now front wheel. Maybe she's just testing out the field and seeing what they fancy doing. But Maryline at the front at the moment, and now just sitting up a little bit to get back in the bunch. Craig, what are you seeing in the Ds?
So the front of the Seas is at an interesting point in their race, actually. They're catching the tail of D. So what that means is so the C bunch is ripping along at 42 k's an hour, and they're catching riders doing 5 to 10 k's an hour, less than that. It's interesting watching some of the Ds accelerate and try to grab a hold, but you're also seeing the odd rider ending up off the back of their group because they've been sticky drafted away. It's an interesting time. So, but Vicky's doing a brilliant job. She's just sitting there, 7th, 8th wheel, just pushing through, making sure she stays on the front or towards the front and not getting caught in any sticky draft, and catching up nicely. I think they're making good time.
Yeah, I think one of the tactical sides of this race, with it being a chase race and the categories set apart by 2-minute start delays, if the category behind do catch, then that gives the front runners an opportunity to try and jump on to that faster category coming through. So the stronger riders will probably be able to do that and just draft behind the higher category, especially on the flat, probably not so much on the hill, but that will allow them to try and get a bit of a break against some of the others in that front group and probably split the field up a little bit. So it's certainly be interesting to see if that happens today.
Yeah, it's a really good tactic if you've got the raw power to make it work in one of the lower cats. If say you're a Cat C rider who's a bigger rider, so you're still there, but you've got more raw watts than your competition. Those raw watts on the flat will allow you to catch a hold of the faster group. So if you can make it work, it's a really good tactic, especially leading into the climb.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, if you're not a great climber, that could allow you to get a bit of a gap on your immediate competition to give yourself a little bit of leeway going onto the climb. So we'll certainly see how that one pans out. But just coming back to the B race, they are 5.5 kilometers in, just about to head over the flat bridge, and we'll be at the aqueduct in around about 7 kilometers. But 5.5k through, just coming up to 8 minutes and going along around about 41, 42 kph. So certainly setting a pretty good pace on the flat. Just having a quick look at some of our other screens. See, I think it's Donna Fisher, who's in the what appears to be front group of the Bs in 8th place, and doing a great job so far.
So here we go. It's about to happen. The front of C is seconds behind the front of D. So the two groups are overtaking each other now. So it's going to be interesting to see how many of these 10 or 12 D riders can actually hold on, if any.
It'll be really interesting to see if any even try it.
I think one or two have. There's definitely movement from the back of the group. So I think 3 or 4 of the D riders have managed to catch a hold, but it's definitely done some damage to the front of their group. So no, I think they all missed. Think they all missed that. Yeah. But interesting watching that happen.
In fact, I think she's working to get back on. I think in that confusion, Donna Fisher might have lost her on the front Ds. It's quite a long ways back. It's more than a minute back.
That is one of the risks on something like this happening, is being caught out entirely and not being part of the front group and missing the boat on the second, which is at this point in a race like this, painful.
So I think what might help her out is we've got the second group of the C's coming through. Showing about 30 seconds behind right now. So there's a possibility she might be able to pull back up with them. So we'll watch and see how that goes. James, how's things going with the B's?
Yeah, still going along really quickly. I think they're averaging well over 40 kph, currently hitting 42, 43, just for a couple of little rollers. Marilyn is still happily drafting away at the back of the group. we're 8k through after just under 11 and a half minutes, so definitely setting a very strong pace. Aqueduct in 5k, so we'll see how that one goes. Ben, how's Victoria doing? She's still happily in that front group?
Yeah, Victoria's still happily in that front group. So they've just gone over that roller that I was talking about at the 9.5 Ks, I think the roller is. And it has done some damage to their group. One girl is sprinting back on, two are tailing off, and there's about another two 50, 60 meters behind now who have completely missed the ride. So as I was saying earlier, it's a brilliant attack point if you expect it, and if you don't, it's horrible. You can make really big time there in team time trial, and yeah, so heading towards the Pave sprint, they've got about another kilometre and a half to get to there, and then we hit the chaos that is the Aqueduct Con.
Yeah, we're 9k in the Bs, so we should be hitting that 4% roller fairly shortly. We're just starting to catch. Trying to see that I think we've got one rider just off the front that's just being caught up now. That might be one of the Cs, actually, to be honest, who's just falling back into the clutches of these Bs. But yep, I think we're just about to take the turn over that little bridge with the little kicker. So we'll see how that goes on. I can see Lisa Jones is happily in here as well. So also doing a great job holding into the pack.
Lisa should know that roller well. I talk about it an awful lot in TTT. So
yeah,
looking at the second group of Cs, so they're moving along. They're just caught up to Donna Fisher off the Ds right now, and they are see if she's able to hang on. That is tough when that group comes through. They've got so much more speed, and they're in the category above. They're likely going faster than we really find comfortable doing. It's hard for all the strongest riders.
yeah, you practically have to put in like a mini sprint just to try and get onto that pace, and then draft through there. But it is very difficult to jump on when they do come through so quickly.
it also takes an awful lot of awareness to do it properly as well. To be able to tell that the group behind is, or the next category is catching up, and to accelerate in and actually get into the group. It's not an easy trick to pull off. So, but if you can make it work, it is a great one to do.
Yeah, and the bees are just approaching a group of sea riders who will obviously try and have a go to try and stay in. With the view I've got at the moment, I can't see who is in there, but I did see one of the Bilby's riders. But we're ticking along at 46 kph at the moment, so it might be very, very difficult to try and hang on, but we'll certainly see if any of them manage to. But it looks like the bees are going straight through. We're at 11k. Ben, the seas must be getting pretty close to the aqueduct now.
They are indeed. So we've just finished the Pave Sprint village, which has caused the bunch to spread out a little bit, which is a dangerous sign heading into the KOM. So we're about to take the first sweeping left-hander, which is into the 3% rises, and we'll see what happens here. So Vicky's playing a dangerous game. She's gone a long way back in the group. She's working her way up again now, but through the cobblestone, she was tail gunning the bunch a little bit more than I would be comfortable with. So here we are into the rollers, or into the risers, sorry, and sitting nicely at fifth, sixth wheel, which is where you want to be. Pushing nearly 5 watts a kilo, which is kind of what you have to do at this point in sea. So how are the bees? Have they hit Pave yet?
Yep, on it now. Just coming around the corner before the sprint banner to signify the end of a sprint. So we're at 12k through 17 minutes, and pace is still very high. And just through the sprint banner now, so we've got about 1.5 to go to the aqueduct. So expect carnage. Craig, what are you seeing in the Ds?
So I've jumped back up to Kim James' group. So that's the, near as I could tell, so that's the group of the lead group of Ds that did not catch the one with the C group. It looks like a second C group is catching them now, and I'm not sure exactly how this is going to go. It's quite strung out here. So, and very mixed up. So a few of the C's might end up trapped in with the D's, and we'll just see how this goes.
Quickly head over to Ben because I think the riders are all on the aqueduct now.
They've just crested the banner, and it is carnage. It is single file everywhere. One girl is a long way off the front by herself. Then there's a small group of 6, and then there's Daylight. So we've got Chelsea from the Gen 2 Penguins and Vicky in our group of 6. And then Loranique is there as well. So the herd well represented going over the aqueduct. And it looks to me like this will be our front 7 heading to the Petite Com.
Just a
Girls, brilliant.
Just a quick shout out to Loranique. I know she hasn't been well for the last 24 hours or so. So massive commitment and maybe a little bit of stupidity in racing today, but obviously putting out a fantastic effort given her health. So well done, Loranique.
Absolutely, and who doesn't love a little bit of stupidity in racing?
Oh, absolutely. It's what we live for. Coming back to the Bs, Marilyn is playing it very safe over the rollers and getting herself right up to the front of the group. We are just hitting the KOM start line now, and just coming around the corner before it ramps up to around about 5%. Lisa's there as well. Marilyn and Lisa both very, very well positioned for the climb. Marilyn putting up the watts now, 5 watts a kilo, still going up. 7, 8, pushing really hard. She's definitely not going to get dropped on this one. And she is front wheel at the moment. Just going round the corner, and she'll see the banner now. And we've got about 200 meters to the top, but Marilyn's played this absolutely perfectly. Front wheel, going over the banner. Should be able to relax a little bit before we get to the Petty KOM.
I've got to say, James, I was watching that too, and that looked like a coordinated attack with Lisa and Marilyn. That was they split up that group quite a lot.
Yeah, no, the group. It's mainly single file. It's just starting to bunch up a bit now as we just hit the downhill, but it's very single file behind that. The front 5 have got about a second gap. Looks like there's actually probably 7 or 8 in here. Not sure if it's going to come back together. It probably will partially, but there's definitely, looking at the map, there's a good 10 off the back. So definitely a fantastic effort from Marilyn to split up the group as much as she has done. So we'll hit the Petticom in around about 3 kilometers time. And then we'll see even more carnage, which is what we love to see. Ben, have the C's.
So the C's have split from our group of about 20 down into a group of 7, then 6, who are working very hard. The 6 are working very hard trying to chase back on. and then there's just a smattering of solo riders on the map behind that. So our girls are sitting in and getting some nice recovery in as we're coming through up to the lavender fields and the balloons on the right. We're not far from the climb. So very soon, yet more carnage, and don't we love that?
So I think this group in B is probably about 12 to 15. So we dropped about another 4 or 5 off the back. We're just approaching another group of sea riders just in front who are going to get swallowed up very quickly indeed. Marilyn happily sat in the middle of a group, and we are just joining these seas now. I can see a HERd jersey in there, but we've gone straight through really quickly. The pace is very high, up around 47 kph. Looking like there's a mini split as well, but no, everyone's just getting back on after going through that group of seas, where you can get a bit of sticky draft, and you can lose the wheel, but it looks like they've all held together and not too far to go until Petty KOM. Craig, any news from the Ds?
Broke up quite a lot going through the aqueduct. So right now, Kim James is with Beck Den of the Bilbies and one other rider from Rave. They're, I think, kind of 9th, 10th, 11th right now. And so they're going through, and they're just a little bit behind the B's and C's we're watching right now. Just got passed by the B group after the aqueduct, so they're also approaching the Petite KOM.
So the front C's, they've started the climb. They're on the long sweeping left-hander, the 3%. And I just want to get both you gentlemen's opinion on this climb. I find this climb to be very easily segmented. Basically just work it turn by turn. Mentally, I think if I'm turning right, I'm able to recover a little bit, and if I'm turning left, I've got to hit it hard because they're going to be the steep sections. What is that? How you guys section a climb like this, or is that only because I'm such a horrible climber?
I really like Petticom. You've got your warm up with the longish sort of 3-4% section before you hit the switchbacks, and then the first one's going to be quite hard. Then you've got recovery on the next, and then you've got another hard one, and then semi-recovery on the one after that. Before you then have sort of mixes of 3 to 8%. I'm not good at chasing on hills. I basically time trial them at the level I know I can hold for that period of time. But I really like the climb.
Yeah, I'd say I'm probably exactly the opposite, where I'm very much a chaser on climbs. So I really like the first section of this because it is quite draftable, and then it kind of switches between steep enough that there's not a lot of draft, but then there's sections that you do get draft. So it's a really interesting climb, and I definitely try to stay in draft for the first section, and then hit from where the switchback starts, hit it as hard as I can, and that's basically how I do this one.
Yeah, I think certainly at the bottom of the switchbacks, there's a good opportunity to kick on the first one, and then you've got a little bit of recovery before it starts going up again. And if you're, let's say, on the heavier side and you have kicked quite hard on the first one, then you're going to have the watts to hopefully pull out a little bit of a gap on the second bit, although that's also very draftable. Marilyn is doing very well so far. She's currently sat around about 7th place, but holding 3.5 watts per kilo. and doing a nice job so far. How's Vicky and Co doing in the seas, Ben?
So our front group of 7 is now a group of 4 and 3. We've had 4 riders do exactly what you guys have just said. They've just kicked hard on the first left-hand hairpin and pulled out nearly 20 seconds. So Vicky's in our group of 3 with Loranique, and they're just pushing on up. They're about to go around the second left-hander. But the other thing I really don't like about this climb is the fact that you get to the banner and then it gets harder. So I must say that's a cruel little joke of Zwift on the big gentleman like me.
Yeah, it doesn't actually go downhill until you turn right to head towards the finish line.
Very, very cruel joke. I was not impressed the first time I found that one out. But I do quite enjoy that descent. Anyway, Vicky's doing a great job. She's just got to keep the power on and she'll do just fine. Struggling with one of the harder, steeper sections on the 7% bits. But she keeps chasing those wheels in front of her. She should be just fine.
Yeah, Maryline still third wheel. I'm just hitting an 8% section. I think the Bs could catch the Cs on this one. We're at 19.1k at the moment. I think, Benny, are you seeing the Bs on your mini map at all?
Yes, I can see Lisa and Maryline coming up on Vicky's group now. They look like they're about 500-600 meters behind, catching quite quickly.
Yeah, we may see a catch today, but we'll see how that one pans out. We have 4 corners to go until the banner, and as Ben said, after you go over the banner, you still got to climb a little bit before the downhill section. So not too far to go, but the ladies' legs will definitely be burning at the moment, and Maryline is on the front, pushing between 4 and 5 watts a kilo. This is definitely looking like an attempted attack. The group behind, there's about 5 riders all on the same time, but there's definitely bigger splits going back further down the field. Just approaching another corner, and Maryline is still going very, very hard. She's definitely seeing this as her best opportunity to go for the win, and she's doing a great job. Craig, any movement in the Ds?
It's always tough on the Ds when the road starts going up, where it does go from watts to watts per kilogram, and that's so they're moving along. So that small group, they do seem to be catching up to the a few riders ahead of them in the Ds. That group of Kim and Becca, and they're moving along well, climbing steady, I think, is pretty much what we can say there. Ben, how's the front of the Cs?
So the very front of the Cs looks like they've finished. Vicky has just been caught by our second group of Cs. So she couldn't quite keep up on some of the steeper sections. She's about to go through the banner now. And here we go. Let's get a time on this. So through the climb in 7.5 minutes, a great time anyway. So now pushing up over the steep little after party present and onto the downhill for the front of C. So might just get away from B actually.
Looks like they will just stay in front of the Bs. Maryline is just going through the banner now. The attack has definitely worked. It's her and a Japanese rider, Hattori, who's just on her wheel. Everyone else is 2 seconds or more behind. And we've also got a Chinese rider in there as well. But so it's Hattori's now 10 meters back and increasing as we hit the hill. So it's Marilyn and a rider called El Kong. And Mariline's gone straight to super tuck as quick as she possibly can. It's hard to super tuck on the first part of this hill because it is difficult to get over 56 kph. So there are some steeper bits where you can do
Personally
it.
disagree, but I understand the point.
Yeah. But yeah, Marilyn back into super tuck at best part of 70 kph, flying down the hill. And it's looking like it's going to be these three to contest for finish. I'm not sure if we're going to get anyone else back onto this group. There's three riders who are 1 and 2 seconds behind, so they might be able to jump back on, but there's a little gap at the moment. We are around 1.5, 2 kilometres to the finish line, so not far to go. Ben sees must be getting very close.
They are. So they're just collectively pushing the 60k mark, so they're popping in and out of the super tuck. They've got a little bit further to go on the descent before they get to the pens, where the fun and games for the finish line start to occur. There's a few different ways to approach it. Mine is overwhelming watts, but tactics could possibly also be a good option. So a hard sprint to finish this race with the sprinting before you see the finish line. It's always hard to decide when to go. But they're descending well, about to hit the long straight just before the right-hander to the finish. James.
These bees have come back together. The riders who were 1 and 2 seconds behind did manage to catch the front group of 3. So we've now got a group of 6 or 7, and I think they'll be setting in for the sprint. Just on the sprint, you've got the sprint start line at, I think it's 200 meters, which is I find a good indication to go. Even though you can't see the finish line, you have to go around the corner. You do know how far you've got to go, which is always quite helpful. Ben, overseas at the sprint banner, or not quite?
No, they're not quite there. They're just about to cross the bridge into town. But bear with me, and we'll be done very, very soon. So this group of Cs that Vicky's part of has just caught a couple of other girls who outclimbed them. And under the bridge, past the turn, they're going now. They've got about 400 metres to finish. Vicky's positioned really nicely in the group here to get a nice kick through it on the draft. And they'll be taking off very, very, very soon. Coming up to the sprint start that James mentioned. So again, these sprint starts are not easy to see. I don't quite like them, but 200 meters to go, round the corner, and what should be getting thrown around here? 4.3, 5 watts a kilo. Going for it, absolutely going for it. 6 watts a kilo, and finished in 8th. Great finish for Vicky. Well done, Steve.
Quickly jumping
James.
in, Marilyne's gone for a panache attack. She's gone with about 300 meters to go. She's just been overtaken by El Kong and is going to come over the line in 2nd place. Super effort, Marilyne. Really, really well done. And we'll wait to see what the Zwift Power results have in store. So jump back to the D's and Craig.
Okay, so just to catch up, Natalie Roberts is sitting in a group, I think it's 18th, 19th, 20th place, and they're just leaving the pens now, or not leaving the pens, but passing the pens. So that's going to be that sprint, and it looks like Kim has done very well. So she's gone over the KOM. She's currently sitting in 9th place for the Ds with one other rider from Rave with her. So it looks like they caught one of the riders that they were chasing, and two of them, and I think Beck Den is a little bit further up the road. I don't know, not sure that's gonna come together. It looks like a couple of them caught on with some C's for the descent, but yeah, doing well in the descent.
What distance is Kim at the moment?
So Kim is at 21.5. So Becca is 7 seconds ahead, and in a group 7th, 8th, and 9th, with then Kim behind. And yeah, there's just a lot of super tucking when they can right now. And pushing to try and get back up to super tuck speed. So looks like it's going to be looks like these two are going to get to the finish line together. I'm just going to pop a little 12 seconds forward now, where we've got a couple HERd riders in a group of 4. They're, say, a little over 10 seconds ahead. And in a group with a rider from Cryogen and one from AHDR. So we'll see how they play that sprint. That's Becton and our Dowell from the Bilbies, who I'm not sure. I've got to say, I'm not sure who that is. Razor Dowell, okay.
Razor Dowell looks like a C rider.
Yep. So that's the C group where that, or sorry, it's not the C group. So the three D riders have hooked on with Razor Dowell and are moving into the finish. It looks like they're gonna catch one more D rider from AEO. Yeah, 1 second behind, and this group is moving faster. So it looks like they're gonna run through, and then this group is gonna sprint for 7th place.
Very, very close to the end now.
Very close to the end. It looks like Beck is attacking now. I mean, she's at 5 watts a kilogram, sticking at 4, and sprint now 5.7. That's a solid sprint. And it looks like Beck comes through with 7th. So great sprint.
Great result.
Great effort. Well done, everyone.
A super effort from all of our riders today. It's been a pleasure following them. And a big thanks to Ben for joining us, and for Craig having to multitask with pictures and commentary. Nate, we hope you get better soon and hope to see you again next week. But thanks to all of our ladies for racing. Thanks to the commentary team, and thanks very much for everyone watching. Catch you next week.